In early 1942, the American war machine faced a disaster no bomb or bullet had caused. When Japan captured Southeast Asia, it seized almost 90% of the world's natural rubber. Overnight, the lifeline of modern war disappeared. Without rubber, trucks wouldn't roll, planes wouldn't fly, ships wouldn't function, and factories would grind to a halt. Before the war, most of the world's rubber came from British Malaya and the Dutch East Indies. Now, that supply was gone. This wasn't a minor inconvenience. It was a silent catastrophe, one that threatened every battlefield, every soldier, and the future of the Allied war effort itself. Rubber lived inside everything that moved. Tires on convoys carrying ammunition, seals inside aircraft engines, fuel hoses, landing gear, gas masks, electrical insulation, ship equipment, tanks, jeeps, every modern vehicle depended on it. And unlike metal, rubber couldn't be mined or forged. It had to be harvested from trees in tropical climates thousands of miles away. By mid-1942, U.S. stockpiles were collapsing. Military planners warned Washington within months the United States might not just lose mobility, it might lose the ability to wage war entirely. America was still building its war machine, but without rubber, that machine was already dying. This crisis wasn't dramatic like a battlefield explosion. It was slow, quiet, and terrifying. On June 28, 1942, President Franklin Roosevelt declared a national rubber emergency. Civilian tire sales were banned. Gasoline rationing was enforced not only to save fuel, but to reduce tire wear. Americans were told to drive less, conserve everything, and accept sacrifice. Posters warned, "If you drive alone, you drive with Hitler." Tires were precious. Failure to save rubber meant failure to support soldiers. Meanwhile, scientists and generals faced a terrifying question. If the enemy controls the world's rubber, how do you fight a world war? The answer came from science. Synthetic rubber existed before the war, but it was unreliable, expensive, and weaker than natural rubber. The United States had never depended on it. Now, it had no choice. In 1942, America launched one of the largest scientific and industrial mobilizations in human history. Universities, chemical companies, government laboratories, and engineers united in a frantic race. The mission felt impossible: build an entirely new synthetic rubber industry from nothing. It needed to be huge, it needed to be fast, and it needed to work. Because if it failed, the Allied war effort might fail with it. Factories had to be designed before formulas were perfected. Refineries had to be converted. Thousands of workers needed to be trained immediately. Massive chemical plants had to rise almost overnight. Between 1942 and 1944, the United States built more than 50 gigantic synthetic rubber plants. Companies that once competed suddenly worked together. Goodyear, Firestone, DuPont, Standard Oil, and more. Business rivalries disappeared. Patriotism replaced profit. Every lost day weakened the front lines. Every delay meant tanks that wouldn't move, planes that wouldn't launch, convoys that wouldn't roll. Time wasn't just pressure. Time was a weapon pointed directly at the United States. The effort was massive and relentless. Trainloads of chemicals and machinery moved across the nation. Great steel factories rose from quiet farmlands. Cities watched industrial giants appear almost magically in their neighborhoods. Inside labs, chemists worked day and night, searching desperately for strength, durability, and stability. Every experiment mattered. Every breakthrough saved lives at the front. Eventually, late in 1943, the breakthrough finally came. A new blend called GRS, Government Rubber Styrene, proved strong, reliable, and ready for war. Tests confirmed it could survive heat, stress, friction, and punishment. Tires rolled again. Engines lived again. Hope returned. Production didn't just begin, It exploded. In 1942, synthetic rubber output was barely functional. By 1943, the United States produced over 800,000 tons. By 1945, production surpassed 1 million tons. America didn't just replace its lost supply, it beat it. Trucks rolled across deserts in North Africa. Tanks advanced through Europe. Aircraft launched missions across the Pacific. Amphibious vehicles crawled ashore in Sicily, Italy, Normandy, and island invasions. Every one of them relied on synthetic rubber to move, fight, and survive. Without it, Allied momentum would have stopped. With it, the war machine thundered forward. Innovation didn't slow, it accelerated. Engineers created heat-resistant rubbers for high-altitude aircraft, stronger, tougher rubbers for tanks, better seals for ships, new compounds for landing gear and military vehicles. What began as a desperate emergency transformed into technological superiority. Japan believed that cutting off global rubber would cripple the Allies forever. Instead, their move triggered a scientific revolution. American industry adapted faster than Axis leaders ever imagined. The rubber weapon had failed. Instead of stopping the Allied war effort, Japan had unknowingly pushed the United States into its greatest industrial comeback. Behind this miracle were ordinary Americans, factory workers in Ohio, Texas, California, and New Jersey, engineers staring at blueprints under harsh lights, chemists in lab coats covered in chemical stains, men and women who endured heat, fumes, exhaustion, and endless shifts. They worked through the night. They sacrificed weekends, holidays, and comfort. They never stormed beaches. They never fired rifles. But they powered every soldier who did. Their battlefield was the laboratory and the production line. Their weapons were tools, equations, and determination. Their courage wasn't loud, but it was unbreakable. By 1944, the rubber crisis was officially over. What began as one of the greatest industrial threats in history became one of America's greatest wartime achievements. The United States had proven it could replace nature with science, distance with production, and crisis with determination. Japan's earlier victories, once terrifying, now meant almost nothing. The Allied war machine was unstoppable again. Tanks couldn't be frozen. Planes couldn't be grounded. Ships couldn't be stalled. The heartbeat of Allied mobility was restored, yet this story rarely appears in movies. There are no dramatic speeches, no heroic battlefield charges, no glamorous moments. But history isn't written only by soldiers. It is shaped by factories, laboratories, workers, and difficult decisions made far from the front lines. Without synthetic rubber, there would be no mobile tank divisions, no long-range aircraft campaigns, no massive vehicle convoys supporting soldiers across continents. Without synthetic rubber, D-Day itself would have been impossible. The rubber crisis reveals a deeper truth about World War II. The war wasn't won by courage alone. It wasn't decided only by tanks, planes, and soldiers. It was won by creativity, intelligence, unity, sacrifice, and human ingenuity. When Japan took control of the world's rubber, they believed they had broken the Allies. Instead, the United States responded by inventing its own. And that invention didn't just solve a crisis, it helped win the war. This achievement also changed the world after the war. Synthetic rubber didn't disappear when peace arrived. It became part of daily life: cars, airplanes, industry, technology, even medical equipment. What began as a desperate emergency became a foundation of modern civilization. The crisis that once threatened to stop the world helped shape the future of it. It also stands as a tribute to collaboration. Scientists, corporations, workers, and government worked together. Politics didn't lead. Ego didn't lead. Survival did. And because they united, millions of Allied soldiers had the support, mobility, and supplies they needed to survive. It was proof that strength isn't only measured by weapons. Strength is the ability to adapt, to solve problems, to refuse defeat even when the situation feels impossible. The rubber crisis could have broken the Allies. Instead, it revealed how powerful human determination can be. In the end, Japan took away the world's rubber. America answered by inventing its own, and that invention kept tanks rolling, planes flying, ships moving, and soldiers fighting. It kept the Allied world moving not just toward survival, but toward victory.